Happening now, security is tight in downtown Minneapolis. The murder trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin begins later this morning. He has already pled not guilty to the charges in the death of George Floyd. Now, Floyd's death sparked protests not just in Minneapolis, but across the country and around the world after that video surfaced of Chauvin putting his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes while trying to arrest him. And joining us live now from Minneapolis is Fox's Bill Keller. Always good to see you, Bill. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
So, Bill, let's talk first with what the expectations are for today, because we do anticipate they'll get to opening statements, but there are some things they have to work out first. Is that right?
Yeah, there's always a few motions. They wrapped up a jury selection middle of last week. They filed a request, the prosecution did. So the judge has to rule on this motion that was filed Friday. So here's what prosecutors are asking. They want to limit how much lawyers on either side can talk about George Floyd's previous past actions, things like that. But then after that, it's kind of full steam ahead. They're going to read the charges to the jury. They'll swear them in. They'll read all the opening rules to the juror, what to expect as this case gets ready to move forward. So opening statements will get underway. Court starts in a little over 2 hours at 9 o'clock. And again, the state will go first, followed by the defense.
Bill, I know one of the sticking points that they were concerned about was the big settlement that the city had with the Floyd family. Is that going to come up in court at all?
You know, I think that's really been reconciled. It really put a big wrench in the middle of jury selection because that settlement kind of tainted the jury pool. There were more than 300 people who had been set aside in the jury pool. They'd been instructed not to watch the news, but it was kind of one of those stories that was hard to ignore. So they had to bring the 7 jurors they had seated back, asked them about it. They ended up losing 2 jurors, but they were able to actually continue with the jury selection process. Those who said they'd seen it said, I can move it aside. I understand it's different from the criminal trial, but certainly that has been a sticking point for the defense. They tried to get this thing delayed or maybe moved to another venue, but even the judge said it's going to be hard to find a corner of the state, let alone the country, that has not seen that video.
Bill, what's the most serious charge that Chauvin is facing, and how does that compare to the other officers? I understand their trial is not till, what, late summer?
Yeah, they're being tried separately, and initially they wanted them to be tried separately so they could be charged on their own merits, but ultimately it's being done because of COVID. Derek Chauvin faces the most serious charge of second-degree murder. There was this whole issue of third-degree murder, whether it applied. He was initially charged with it. It was dropped, then reinstated, almost went to the state Supreme Court. He's also charged with second-degree manslaughter, but that is about the most serious charge that those other officers who were at the scene were charged.
All right. We know you have a busy couple of weeks ahead of you, and we'll look forward to talking to you more. Fox's Bill Keller live from Minneapolis for us. Thank you, Bill.
Amy, thanks. Well, a news